How's everyone doing out there? Welcome back to the channel. This is Zip with another discussion about crypto as we travel through this exhilarating journey that we are on. Things are fun, the markets are up, and now is the time to really think about what you're going to do for an exit. We have to have a plan. So today we're going to get into that. I'm going to answer some questions specifically. Hopefully this answers fun family travel. Richard for real about mistakes that I've made in the market, going through a couple bull run, and things that I understand now that I wish I would have understand then to be able to capitalize on owning these digital assets. All these answers, this is just my personal experience. I don't have all the answers, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why it's important. Drop comments out there. I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. Understand, I'm doing a 20-minute video and trying to cover 8 years worth of life, and really more than that, things that I've learned through my whole life about finances, about banking, about all of these things within the crypto environment. So let's jump into it. And I want to start with something that I heard yesterday that kind of hit me. We have to expand our mindset when we're thinking about money. And I promise you, all this is going to come together here in the end as we go through things that I've learned. But I want you to ask yourself this question, okay? How much money do you really want in life? What's your number? If I had it to give to you right now, what is your number? So I was asked that question and I thought about it. And as I answered the question, I had a minimalistic view. And what do I mean by that? I answered it based off, well, I'd love to have just the amount of money that I need right now to live this lifestyle. And I didn't expand on that. You know, the individual basically came back and stated, well, you're being greedy. And I'm like, well, what do you mean I'm being greedy? This is what I need. He's like, yeah, that's what you need. I was looking inwardly to myself. So when we're thinking about these exits, the bottom line is you have to have a plan. What is your dream? Are you thinking millions of dollars? And if you're thinking millions of dollars, are you thinking that to spend on yourself or to give back, to buy businesses, to create an economical environment for other folks that you can then bless with the money that you've been blessed with? One thing I've learned in life is the more you give, the more you will be given and get. And that equates to money as well, and that philosophical premise of money. And that's why when you look at wealthy people, many wealthy people, they give a lot of money. And that rolls right into this thought about exits of the markets. So number one on the list is you have to have a system in place. Whatever your number is that you'd like to make from the crypto market, if it's $100,000, if it's $1 million, if it's $100 million, what are you going to do with that capital when it comes in? How are you going to execute that capital? I went through this because all I saw was a number and I just wanted money. I wanted the profit, but I did not have a plan to execute when I received the profit. What was I going to do with it? How was I going to protect the capital when it came in? And what was I going to do with it? So for me, I developed a system and I started learning. And I talk about infinite banking a lot. So for me, I like to pull the capital in, and I'm going to fund my whole life, strategically designed whole life policies. Then I can leverage those for the future. But that's one place that the money's going to go. Other places, like in my system that it's going to go, I'm going to pay off any debt that I may have. Houses. I'd like to pay those off if it makes sense. Everything's about math. But the premise here is you have to have that system in place. If you don't know what you're going to do with the money, it's going to come in and it's going to go back out on stuff. That's why it's so vitally important, and that's why I talk about it so often. That was the number one, in my opinion, mistake that I had made previously. But now I have things in place and I'm still developing those. You have to be flexible and develop the system as you go along, because as you start hanging out with people that have more wealth, they think completely differently. They analyze and look at money completely differently than you and I going into a 9-to-5 job do. So that was one. Secondly, evaluate taxes if you're going to be exiting to fiat. What is the tax you're going to have to pay on that exit? You want to start looking at that. Again, that's why when you, ladies and gentlemen, drop comments out there and you're like, well, should I exit at this number and do this? That's a loaded question, and no one can answer that. And I don't give financial advice anyhow. I give my strategies to help expound your mind, hopefully. But I don't know, because I don't know your tax structure. I don't know your system, your plan to do what you're doing with the money that we talked with. Understand the long-term capital gains and the short-term capital gains. That was a huge mistake that I'd made. A mistake that I had made not realizing was, if you're brand new, you may not know this, the OGs will, but when you swap, just say you exit from XRP into RLUSD or USD into a stable coin because you want to keep the dry powder digital. You do understand that that is a taxable event. If you are swapping and moving in between assets, it's a taxable event and it's reportable. Early on in 19, I didn't understand that. I didn't really know that. I'm just out here trying to wheel and deal and make money, make profit, earn profit. That was mistake, number 2. Understand the tax consequences for any exit that you may make. Number 3, what are your goals, again, with the money? This goes back to how I opened up this video. But are your goals just to buy stuff? Buy a car, buy Lambos, buy houses? Or is it to reallocate, and as I said, part of the system, pay off debt, pay down things, go out and buy another business to allow more cash flow, fund policies to provide and protect my capital? You have to have those questions answered, because when these numbers start going up, and we've been seeing them, it's exhilarating. But if you don't have a defined plan and a vision of where you want to go, it's going to create problems for you. And with the amount of wealth that I believe is getting ready to happen with many of you that own some of these digital assets, it's going to be a substantial number. I don't care where you are in life and how wealthy you are currently. Money is money, and things are getting ready to pop off. So you just have to understand, what are your goals? In anything, you should have goals in life. I have goals daily, every day. I know exactly what I want to check off. I start with the gym to get the mindset going, to get the body energized. But you need to have those goals. Very, very vitally important. And I didn't have goals. I was just out there, just floundering around, just living off of hope. Number 4, and I've gone over this before, it's really age dependent. The mistake that I had made is I wasn't forward thinking and really thinking about my age, and was it a correct time for me to exit all of the market? If you're older, maybe that's a plan. as I've stated numerous times, I don't plan on exiting the market fully, but I do plan on selling off a substantial amount when I hit the number, which we'll get into here in a minute. But it is very dependent on your age. If you are young out there and you have a longer life to live, unless you are talking about life-changing wealth, which may be different for everyone, I would stay in the markets and wait for the utility that we talk about to come in. Because right now, we're just running on FOMO and retail for the most part in these markets. Institutions are starting to come in and more are going to come in, but until utility ramps up for these real world blue chip assets that I talk about, you know, they're not there. So if you're younger, you may want to hold on. If you're older, you may want to pull out some of that capital to de-risk it. But again, it all falls back to that plan. What plan do you have? So age was something that I had not thought about. And again, when you, ladies and gentlemen, I love the comments, continue to ask them. Ask a question like that. I don't know how old you are. We have no relationship. It's really a bi-directional conversation and a limited character set on YouTube. So it's very hard without sitting in the room and having more of a conversation, understanding your lifestyle. Number 5, one of the most important things, because when these markets start popping off, as I talk about, your psychology is going to change and you're going to be looking at numbers go up. And just remember, as fast as numbers go up, numbers can go down. You have to write down your exit strategy. This is not some woo-woo kind of thing that we're talking about. The reason you write it down is because you've defined it. You've talked about everything else that I'm talking about in this video. You've defined your plan and you write that number down. You do the math prior. Let's just say as an example, XRP. We're talking about hitting $15. Many analysts are by the end of this run. That could be a substantial amount of money. How much do you want to take off of that the table at that point? So I would write down $15 exit strategy for me, for Zip, as an example, and I'm going to pull off 10%. Now, everybody's plan is going to be different. The point and the emphasis I want to make here is write it down. If you don't write it down, if you don't have it formulated in front of you, when we get to $15, which we will, your mind automatically is going to start running numbers in your head, and you're going to go, well, if I wait until $20, I can pull out this much more money, which is true if we make it to $20. What happened to me in the past was I had numbers to where I was going to sell some off, and I see the market going up. And back then I wasn't selling off to make the money, to keep the money. I was going to sell it off so I could increase my bag and buy back in when we went into a bear market. But I didn't have it written down. It was just kind of subjective. And when I started to see that market go up and those numbers going up every hour, every day, I capitulated and went, I'm gonna hold on a little bit longer. And I kept on doing that. And then I watched the market begin to tumble. We don't know when that's going to happen, and if it's even going to happen this time, I don't know. But that's why if I write the number down, I've got my marks ready to go and I'm ready to execute. Very, very, very important, which leads me to the next thing. If you are debating and thinking about exiting these markets, you better have the exchanges ready to go. You better have your bank accounts linked. You better know you can log into the exchanges. And this is why I have multiple exchanges, but one that I am confident in that I will be able to execute with, because I can pick up the phone and have a conversation. I can send a text and have a conversation. I can send an email and get an immediate reply. Is Caleb and Brown. I've mentioned them many times. There's a link in the description. Use it if you want. I'm getting ready to have them on the channel to talk about their platform. But the point to this is, and the mistake I had made was, I only had 2 exchanges at the time that I was utilizing. Coinbase, and at the time, Gemini. They weren't really good options because as the market started to go climb and everyone was trying to exit or buy or do whatever they needed to do because they had a plan, I couldn't even get in. And it happens quite often. So for me now, I have multiple avenues, multiple exchanges. I log in once a month, make sure your KYC, your KML, all of your tax information, all of your paperwork's great. You have banks linked to it. All of the requirements, if you're thinking about exiting out and into fiat for sure, but even if you're just going to do a swap or whatever the case may be, that facilitates your plan. That was a huge mistake, and I didn't know, especially for the brand new people. Again, the OGs, this is old hat. We've been through this, but I want to be able to share it with you so you don't stumble over the same bear traps that I stumbled over. And lastly, get rid of any ego that you have. You know, and what do I mean by that? Ask for help. There are no dumb questions. There's no dumb comments. They are what they are if you're asking intelligent questions and you're asking like, you know, Fun Family Travel did, Richard Farrell did, you know, give you practical examples. These are it. Get rid of the ego. Ego does nothing for you except hold you back. So ask the questions, reach out to the folks that you have contact with, you know, your CPAs, tax attorneys, whomever, financial planners, if you have one, and have a discussion with them. They may not understand this digital asset world, but if they're good, they're going to understand wealth management. And that is the key to being in the rooms. You have in front of you, you're watching content right now, the greatest university that there is, YouTube. Find content on wealth. Find good content on wealth and understand and learn about money. That was a huge thing. I didn't want to ask the questions. I had an ego, which we all do. But I shed that crap because I wasn't able to learn. I reached out to folks, and that's where the networking started. And I started to have conversations with folks that were much brighter than I was to learn, to be educated. And I want to mention this. This is something that Jason Germain put in, that David Schwartz, if you haven't heard this story, and we're going to close on this, but David Schwartz has a story with Ethereum, and his story was he had a lot of ETH, and basically he sold ETH at a very low number to pay for solar panels on a house that he's no longer in. And if he had held on to that ETH, it'd be worth over $100 million right now. And that encapsulates everything that I'm talking about as far as having the plan, having a system, writing the numbers down, doing the calculations and the math of where you want to go in the future, what your age is, having the exchanges ready to go. David's story, you don't want to look back and think, well, I didn't have a plan, so I exited everything. And that's why, for me, I will not exit everything. I'm going to hold on 50%. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been watching the content, you know I'm riding XRP. That is the stallion. That is the main horse that I believe that is going to transform this financial environment, along with XLM. HBAR is going to be phenomenal. XDC has a bright future. But XRP is the one, in this guy's opinion. With that, please avoid the scammers. That is another thing that I learned the hard way as I'm thinking about it on the fly, on the drive here. The scammers are going to ramp up as things accelerate and more money comes into this market. And they are getting more and more sophisticated with this AI and everything else. They can take anybody and make them appear real. I'm not reaching out to you, ever. I'm not reaching out to you. I have nothing to give you. This is for free. Be very, 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 very careful. The exchanges are not going to reach out to you. They have help desks and numbers that you can call, but they are not reaching out to you. Ledger is not reaching out to you. Decent is not reaching out to you. So be very, very, very careful as you go through this bull run, and execute caution with anyone and everyone that you talk to, because I want to make it to the other side with all of you. Again, I'm having a ball here making this content, sharing my journey with you, but getting across the finish line without being scathed and losing profits is how we want to execute this, being smart. But continue to like the videos, pump in the comments. Remember, there's no ego, there's no dumb comments. Ignore the bots in the comments. I try to delete them the best I can. You ladies and gentlemen, answer them and tell them they're stupid. I see that out there as well. Love it. But we're going to make it through this. It's getting ready to be fun. So someday we can hang out on the absolute most beautiful beaches of the world together. And with that, Zip is out.